Oh, hi, doctor. How are you?
Fine, Stephanie, and yourself?
Oh, it's just fantastic. What could be wrong? What could be
Oh,
stressful?
nothing,
All right.
nothing. Why? There's no reason for any stress or anything. Just
Right. I
hanging
said
out.
we should not have expected this is going to end any other way than it started, and it's been the whole time, just ugly and chaotic and horrible. Right.
Right,
I mean,
right.
but I have to say, it is horrible and tragic, and yet sort of sums everything up that the United States recorded 100,000 new cases of COVID over the last 24 hours, the first time its daily numbers have hit six digits on
Yeah,
election day. COVID was on the upswing in 36
perfect.
states, right?
A perfect timing, really.
Guess who predicted that? Dr. Doom last week.
That's right.
hmm
Yeah,
I did.
yeah. Um, I know you don't like being right about these things, but 17 states have also reported record numbers of COVID hospitalizations in states like Virginia, Ohio, Minnesota, Oklahoma, among others. It is. I don't even know what you call this anymore. Is this a third wave? Is it?
I don't know. That's a little bit of a semantic issue. It doesn't matter. What
Yeah.
it matters is that we've had no let up in this pandemic since last February. It's just getting worse, and it's bound to get even more problematic and more fatalities, more hospitalizations. But one of the things that was so fascinating to me on election night, Stephanie, I checked the absolutely up to date listings of COVID and prevalence. And the top 10 states for the most COVID on a per population basis, nine of them had voted for Trump.
I saw that on.
So
Yeah.
You said that on Twitter. Yeah.
I know. So, and if you kind of let that settle in, that means that the people that were getting hit the hardest by the incompetencies and dishonesty of Donald Trump's COVID policies voted for him.
Yeah.
So this is the ultimate voting against your own self-interest. I found it just remarkable. I don't know what you think, but
Yeah.
I don't understand the thought process of people who still seem to support him, even if they're unemployed, even if three relatives got COVID, he still seems to prevail in the minds of his diehard supporters. I don't really get it. Do you, Steph? I mean,
I.
what?
Well, doctor, I don't. I was saying. Even this study that showed he personally, with these rallies, has spread 30,000 cases. 700 people have died.
Yeah,
Has anybody interviewed those families of the 700 people that died from going to Trump rallies? The 30,000 people that got it
yeah.
from going to Trump rallies? I mean,
Oh, well, they won't believe it. They don't accept it. They think
right.
these are made up numbers by the leftist fake media, and they just won't accept it. So I think it's a useless conversation. Although I'm just so curious about what their thought process is.
Yeah.
How do you comport reports like that with still supporting the guy who completely screwed this up from day one?
Well,
I
and
don't
we
know.
and we all have a personal connection. You and I have talked about my mom, who's in quarantine in assisted living
Yeah,
that she just went into last week, which is making her dementia worse. Because she doesn't know where she is or what's going on, and it's I can't
disoriented.
I
Yeah,
can't go see her. Nobody can go visit her. This has impacted almost all of us personally,
yeah,
Doc. And my first thought, in the fear of, oh my God, is he going to be reelected, was like, oh my God, this is going to get worse and it's going to go on forever, and I'm never going to see my mother. I mean, it's I do think it's personal and visceral for a lot of us. You think he's going to
yeah.
fire, as he said at the rally, he's going to fire Fauci if he wins, like tomorrow,
Uh-huh.
and then what? We're just full on into herd immunity.
Well, because the guy who's whispering in his ear, the Dr. Scott Atlas, who's a complete know nothing
Yeah,
about pandemics and infectious disease, maybe he's fine in his own specialty, but he has no expertise or experience in this. And he's the one that's been promoting this nonsensical, dangerous policy of herd immunity into the president's ear. I mean, hopefully he'll be gone and soon, but even if he's not reelected, even if Biden prevails, we got a lot of days left before the inauguration,
yeah.
and there's still a lot of damage that Donald Trump could do before he actually has to move out. And
I
we're
saw,
worried about that.
yeah, I saw him disputing the long haul, uh, you know, uh, uh, effects of COVID. So you're like, there are how many people living through that, the long haul,
Yeah.
effects of COVID, and he's trying to deny it. I mean, yeah. I
Well, we shouldn't be shocked, Steph. This is his MO since the beginning of all this:
yeah.
dishonesty, lack of transparency, and incompetency. It's a hell of a trio.
Dr. Redlener, I know you talked to Dr. Fauci a lot, and as we talked, I was totally with you in your op-ed about that they should resign. He and
Yeah,
Birx and whatever. And I mean, it does seem like they
yeah.
have spoken out right before the election. Curious your thoughts on. I don't know if you know. Do you know Dr. Birx as well personally, or
No,
oh, okay?
no, I don't know
You
her
know,
personally.
she ripped into the Trump administration for not taking much more aggressive action. She said this is not about lockdowns. It hasn't been about lockdowns since March or April. It's about an aggressive, balanced approach that is not being implemented. Um, I would just argue in her case it's a little late speaking out, but I mean, I agreed with you. I just think it's stronger for them to have stepped down and said we take an oath to first do no harm. Everything you are doing is harm. Everything you're saying, everything. I mean, it's
And just being there, remaining in office with this being your boss, with Donald Trump being your boss, is a statement that is very uncomfortable for us to, observe here.
yeah.
She's a very respected, highly competent expert in this field, and she continues to kind of participate in the administration, which was always crazy. You remember that episode where when Trump was talking about injecting bleach and
Yeah.
UV lights in your body? She was the one that was sitting on the stage with him,
Yep.
looking down.
Yeah.
I felt pain for her,
Yeah.
but why the hell she didn't get up and sort
Well,
of quit in that
thank you.
briefing?
And
I
by the
don't know.
way, she's, I guess, leaked out there that she doesn't go to meetings anymore with Dr. Atlas. Well, okay, then resign. Like
Yeah,
resign and make a public statement. I mean, it
yeah,
could
yeah,
save lives. I mean, that's
yeah, yeah.
um
Well, it's too
yeah.
late for now.
Yeah.
Now for any of that to
Yep.
make much of a difference. Obviously, we're in the final moments maybe of this election, and I don't know who among them will actually stay or that the Biden administration will want to stay. But I'm expecting to see if Biden prevails here, which I hope to God he does.
He's going to.
We'll see a whole new crew of exceptionally competent people that the president will actually listen to.
And he will, of
Wouldn't
course.
that be a novel
Yeah.
thing there? But yeah, so we
But
got
but Doc,
something to look forward to.
here's the operative question, right? I mean, Joe Biden, if you saw him yesterday, I mean, he has said he will be an American president. He is not going to be like Trump and only govern,
Yeah,
the states that voted for him. So but
yeah,
my question is, when he comes out and says, "Look, be patriots, man. Let's do this together. Let's wear masks. Let's get this thing under control. Let's get our lives back." Are
yeah,
half the country not going to listen to him because it's like, "Oh, screw you. You didn't really win. Trump won." I mean, that's what's hard to predict, right?
yeah. And I've been reading. There's a lot of concern that even if and when Trump loses, he'll be leaving a legacy of diehard Trumpians, even without Trump in the White House, that will resist things that Democrats do. We already, unfortunately, won't have control of the Senate. So we could have a repeat performance of Mitch McConnell demanding that his Republican Senate refute everything proposed by the new administration. I don't think it's going to be a great old time coming up here, even if Biden wins. I think it'll be an enormous breath of fresh air, and we'll do everything possible to make sure he's able to unify the country. If we don't unify the country,
Yeah.
we're going to be in really big trouble because he won't be able to get his agenda done, which would be a horrible shame
Because
for the
even
country.
Dr. Redfield said, this is better than a vaccine. Holding up the mask.
I know.
This,
I know.
like us. Okay. Here's a question that, as a world-renowned infectious disease expert at Columbia, you've never been asked. But have you heard about this British astrologer?
Oh, Stephanie. No. No.
She predicted COVID. She predicted Brexit. She's predicting
Yeah.
exactly what's happening in the American
Yeah.
election now. But one thing I was shocked she said is there's not going to be a vaccine. And I mean, obviously, as a scientist, it's always a possibility. We don't have a vaccine for AIDS yet. But the difference, of course, it being an airborne infectious disease.
Yeah,
What,
yeah, yeah.
I'm just curious, Doc. What would happen if we never get a vaccine? I mean, what?
Well,
how,
and it's
I mean,
not
how,
out of the question, by the way.
we've learned to
because
live with AIDS because I guess we had to, but again, that's transmitted much differently.
So two things will happen. So first of all, the disease may become what we call endemic. That means it just exists sort of permanently out there.
Right.
If we get a vaccine, we may get a vaccine that turns out to be, or multiple vaccines, not to be safe. So we may not actually functionally have a vaccine that everybody could get. So, but the second thing is that we also are in the process of developing drugs, medications that can treat COVID in the earliest stages. So if you get symptoms, you get tested positive, your doc can just prescribe some new antiviral drug that will knock it out.
Sort of like we have the cocktail for AIDS, right? I mean,
well, the cocktail for AIDS, but we also have a drug called Tamiflu,
right.
which if you get the regular seasonal influenza, and if you go in early enough and get a prescription for Tamiflu, it can really subdue the manifestations and shorten the disease. And I think we'll be having drugs like that that will be able to treat the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. And that would be great. And if we have that and we don't have a vaccine, or it takes longer to develop a vaccine, then it's at least something.
Well,
we don't have to be plagued by this sort of deadly ongoing increase in cases and fatality.
That's my point. Is there's a lot of things you could do. I mean, I'm joking. I'm joking that it's an astrologer, except that I think because we've been inundated with all this bull for so long about we're going to have vaccine in a minute, it's going to be here by the election day, it's going to be, we realize, you as a scientist, that what's the fastest vaccine on record? It took, what, 4 years?
4 years
and it
for
was
mumps. Yep.
The mumps, right. And so suddenly, as all this is cleared with the election, I went, no one wants the vaccine more than I do. We all do. But just the reality that you go, we might not have one, or we might not have one anytime soon, and just what are we going to do? And I that's like you say, it may be like AIDS, that we learn to live with it, that we have a cocktail, that but it is terrifying to me as an infectious airborne disease that's spread asymptomatically. That we would have to live with it. But
and we may have to live with things. This is a process of adaptation, and us become resilient as people, and learning to live with things that are not good. And there's problems that have to be solved, from climate change to fixing our infrastructure. There's a lot of things that are lingering out there, to which we've now added this dramatic and deadly pandemic. But I think I'm hopeful, actually, that we'll get this under some kind of control, even if it becomes endemic, a part of our environment for the long haul. But I do think I'm hopeful, and I'm Dr. Doom, so I'd like you to be hopeful.
Oh my God!
If Doom is hopeful, you can be too.
Wait a minute. How did I become the voice of calm during this election stress, and you became Dr. Happy Clappy?
Yeah.
What is happening?
I don't know.
It's tomorrow's Freaky Friday.
It is Freaky Friday.
Not enough sleep. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want you to know I ate my oatmeal this morning, and I got my flu shot, and that's all that's important now.
Hey, by the way, are you taking vitamin D?
No, but I'm hike every day in the sun. Is that no? Take vitamin D?
That's good. No, that works. That works. But next time you get a checkup, have them check your vitamin D level.
Okay. All right.
A lot of Americans are deficient, and that's probably a factor that may help prevent COVID.
I have heard this. All right. Thank you, Doc. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And also your majestic performance, featuring a Grand Doom in the just released Sexy Liberal Fight Club on social media. We did
that was
a director's
one of the funniest
cut.
things I've ever seen. Thank you very much.